crossing Delaware, and today we're going to go over all of the ways you can customize a framed print order. And this is the photography shop, and at this particular time, these are the photos that are on the page, but by the time you watch this, we'll probably have a lot more. And on this particular page, you can scroll down and look at all the different thumbnails. You could also sort the photos by category just by clicking on the different categories here. And you can see here. So, okay, so we're going to go to London, and we're going to click on this photo. And then if you see the photo larger. And then if you want to buy now, you'll click down on the button down here, Buy Now. And it's going to bring you to the buy page. Now, this is where it gets really fun. So on the right side here, you can see the 5 different options that you can buy, which are canvas, framed, print, which is where there's no options other than getting just the actual print rolled up in a tube mailed to you. An acrylic print, which is really also kind of cool. And then an aluminum metal print. But today we're going to talk about the framed print, which is the second option here. So we're going to start off by clicking framed print, and you're going to see this large image here, and everything live updates. So framed print, you're clicking on it, and here we go. So the default frame that you're going to see here is this black frame. So you don't want to freak out and be like, but I don't want the black frame. That's okay, because we're going to get to that in a second, because there's hundreds of different frames with different colors and thicknesses and sizes and stuff, but let's just start with one thing at a time. The default frame, and you might like this. You might be like, all right, this is great. This is fine. I personally don't think that this serves this particular photo very well, so I'm going to want to customize this a little bit more and pick out something and resize it and change the mat, and I'm just going to show you how to do all that. So the first thing is I just want to point out something. If you can see down here, if you can go into full screen mode, down here under the photo in this larger box here, it says dimensions. And this is really useful if you're trying to figure out how big the finished piece is going to be, because you know you're going to be hanging this on your wall, and you want to know how big the finished piece or the overall dimensions are so that when you receive it, you're not going to be surprised and it won't be too big or smaller than you expected. And then when you get it, you can just hang it on your wall and it's going to be exactly what you wanted. So right here it says overall dimensions, and the 8 by 5, almost 5.5 inch photo framed with the mat is actually going to be 13.5 by almost 11 inches. It's a little over 10 3/4 inches. Well, that's enough of a difference with all of these accessories, which I'm calling them accessories, the frame and the mat. It adds those inches on all sides. So now it's actually not so small. It's not just an 8 by 5. Well, I don't want an 8 by 5 print. I want something bigger. This is a really dramatic photo. I want to go big. Bigger, bigger, bigger. So let's go 20 by 13. It's almost 20 by 13.5. So this is a nice big dramatic print. Well, just by picking the larger print, it immediately goes bigger, and now I'm at 25.5 by almost 19 inches. So even if I just stuck with these options, that dramatically changes the amount of space it's going to occupy on my wall, right? Well, I don't like the frame. I want to go with something that has a little bit more color. I might want to change the frame or the mat width. So let's start customizing everything. Now, tab number 2 over here is where you can select your frame. So let's select frame. And this is kind of cool because you can select from all kinds of frames that are primarily black. Some of them have a little bit of a different color in them. But you can see here there are a lot of different frames in the black category. And some of them are really dramatic, some of them are modern, some of them are not. But then we've got something, because of the type of photo it is and the type of structure and architecture and even just the color scheme, I want to go in the gold category, because let's see if there's something in here that might look kind of cool, because I think that there is. And you know what's interesting is this very first one here, which is kind of funny, this is going to live update for us. I'm going to click the very first frame, this EXL2. I clicked that and you see immediately it updated. Whether or not you think that this is the right frame for it, for the purposes of this, you can see what's going on here. It immediately updated the preview so you can get an idea of what this looks like. Because it might look like a cool frame down here, colors wise, but then you look at it and you're like, meh, I don't like it. But then if you really want to get more of a detail, this thumbnail in the lower left-hand corner, if you click on it, you can get a really nice detail. And you might think it was much darker, but it's kind of a muddy brown. It's not really what I thought. Meh, I don't like it. So let's go with something else. Now, what about this one? Way too yellow. I don't love that. So you get the idea. I can just keep clicking through and selecting all these different types of frames, and some of them are really ornate. You can make it look like a really old museum looking photo. You can make it look really simple. And it's cool because the way that it live updates for you gives you a really nice idea of what this thing's gonna look like when it's done. And even if you change your mind and you're like, you know what, I'm just not digging this color scheme at all. I want to go with something that is in the black color scheme, or I want to go with something beige or brown or copper even. There's all these different color schemes and categories. You can change all of this stuff and do anything that you want to. But I'm just going to go back and let's see. I'm going to just go back to black because there's usually something in that category, because I will always end up going with something in the plain Jane semi category. But for the purposes of this, let's just go sort of simplistic. Okay. So I just picked that one because now I want to talk about the matte. And the matte is kind of cool because you'd be surprised how unexpectedly dramatic the matte size can change the way a photo looks. And the first thing is the very first matte option, and if you scroll down even in this frame, look at all the different matte options. And I would do this wisely because once you do it, it's one of those things that once you do it, you can't really change it. I mean, if you were to change and make a red matte, that just personally doesn't look fabulous. But if you were to do a black matte, I don't love it. This one happens to be a rag matte, but I mean, you could definitely change things up a little bit, and there's so many different colors. But I'm going to just go back up here, and I'm going to just change this. This is a slightly off-white, and it's got a nice black inner edge. And I personally think that this, some people might not love it, but I think that this looks kind of cool, and it gives it just a nice little frame, just edges it a little bit. But this is a 2-inch matte. Now, I just want to focus your attention again over to these overall dimensions. It's almost 30 inches by just over 23 inches. So let's just round it up. Again, I like to round things up. It's about 30 inches by around 23 1/4 inches. But I want to increase the matte. I feel like this deserves a little bit more matte to make it a little bit more dramatic. And right now it's at 2 inches. Let's see what 3 inches looks like. So that's kind of nice. I'm curious what 3.5 inches looks like. Because remember, 3.5 inches is 3.5 on this, on the top, the right, the bottom, and the left. So 3.5, that's 7 inches on the overall top, at the very top and bottom, and then 7 inches width. So at the height and in the width. So that, to me, looks like that could be really nice, for example. So now my overall dimensions are 32 3/4 by just over 26 inches. And that's not horrible. That's a pretty nice overall dimensions for something on your wall. Okay, great. The paper tab, which is tab number 4, is defaulted to luster, which is my personal preference. I think it is a really nice, fine photo quality paper. You could also go with archival paper. These are really nice. The archival paper, luster photo paper, or the semi-matte photo paper are all going to be fantastic for photography because they are going to give you the best visual quality so that you don't get a really high glossy glare when there is light that shines on your photo. Glossy photo paper is the sort of thing you're going to get when you print photos at Walgreens, which is one of the reasons why your photos don't always look so fantastic when you get your photos printed at a place like a Walgreens, like a quick print. when you have a really high glare, they almost feel like sticky and you can see fingerprints. Not that you'll be touching this, but there's just something about that super high glossy glare that make it really hard to really see and appreciate the detail in a photo. The luster photo paper has a very fine, almost texture to it, and there's still a little bit of that shine, and it's just a really nice way to have a professional photo printed. And then the finish, of course, is just the way that it's all backing and completely finished, because you're going to receive your framed print and it's going to be ready to hang with the wire on the back. Everything's going to be completely finished for you. So these are all of the different options that you can do so that you can customize your frame. And if you notice with the pricing, if you were to have a photo printed, if you were to bring anything to a local frame shop, if anyone is familiar with having something printed at a frame shop, it is a very expensive process, and it could cost a couple $100s just to have something printed. And so this is a very affordable way to have it completed in an all-in-one step, and it's kind of nice to just have it ordered and completed, sorry for the dog, and have everything shipped to you. So I hope that this was very helpful, and I look forward to hearing from you. If you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out on our contact page, and thank you so much for visiting. Bye.